Welcome back to Yaffee Live. This is Chattanooga's Smart Talk Radio. Glad you're joining the show today. If you want to weigh in on the text monster, you can.
That's the YAFFEE show, the Yaffee Live show.
Thanks, Max.
Here's Yaffee.
If you want to follow me on X, you should know how to spell it. So thanks to Max for pointing that out or liking the Yaffee Facebook page.
I'm so proud to learn to spell it.
I can tell. Joining me on the show right now, Brandon Lewis. He is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative, and you can read the latest news there at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, how are you today, good sir?
I'm just out here frying eggs on the hood of my car.
I believe it.
It's quicker than the stove.
I believe it. So you got some good stuff on your website today. I saw this story, and I think I had this in my bullet points earlier this week, but the Tennessee Department of Corrections signs on to the ICE 287G program. What does this mean exactly?
It's great. And, Hamilton County has already signed up. There are different models. This specific one is the jail enforcement model, which essentially means, hey, when somebody gets arrested and they're in your jail, you can check their immigration status. And if they've got an ICE detainer, if you think that they're there illegally, you can work with ICE, report to ICE, and then they can start the proceedings to get them back to their country of origin. And so we've got a few counties. It's amazing that more counties haven't done this, especially how red many of them are in their jails. But now we've got the Tennessee Department of Corrections, okay? And so I assume that just means anybody that's in Tennessee State Prison, they're starting the process of doing this exact same thing that Austin Garrett in Hamilton County has done. And so I think this is fantastic. This is kind of like, to me, this is like the big rocks thing, right? As we start to try to change and tackle this illegal immigration problem that we have, that unfortunately Republicans have done very little about over the last 5 years, despite a lot of outcry. This is one of those big rocks things. That means, yes, they're already here illegally. It's not preventative. It's after the fact. But I can't remember what it's costing per day to have an illegal alien in jail. I think it's like $80, $90, maybe closer to $100. Austin told me those numbers last time we spoke. But, I mean, that's great. I mean, if you can get hundreds or even thousands of people off the Tennessee dime in jails that are here illegally, that would be outstanding, especially the ones that are the worst offenders. And I assume if you found yourself in Tennessee State Prison, you're probably in that category.
Well, and it's good as well that the state, in different ways, is wanting to work with ICE. Because unfortunately, we've seen some of these big city mayors, like Freddie O'Connell, we talked about before, they don't want to work with ICE. But it's good that at least on the state level, in a lot of these areas, they are working when it comes to immigration.
Yeah, these are the worst of the worst that we'll likely get rid of. It'll save taxpayers in Tennessee a lot of money. And I think probably in addition to the money, the biggest benefit is so often these guys get out of prison, they don't get deported, and they just do it again. And, often they get better at it. And, but as much as they want prison to reform people, very often folks come out of that environment even worse than when they went in because of the folks that they associate with. And so hopefully this will make a big dent in some of the most violent offenders and hopefully maybe even drive down violent and property crime in Tennessee by getting the worst elements out of our state.
Yeah, now that we actually have a secure border, when we deport them, they will stay deported. That's kind of
correct.
That's kind of the other part of this. I'm speaking with Brandon Lewis.
For at least 3 more years, we know for sure.
Oh, man, you just had to put in the downer in there, trying to be positive.
That's why we got to fix this stuff at the state level, baby. Everybody, gets all excited when we get a Republican in office, and we think it's just going to trickle down to Tennessee, and boy, it doesn't. We got to do our own work here.
Yeah, that is very true. Now, there's another immigration issue, and I would say on this one, the divide over this isn't the typical left-right divide, and I'll explain why. We have this story where the ACLU is joining the Metro Nashville council members in a lawsuit against the state over the new immigration law. Talk about this a little bit.
So, there was a law passed in 2019 that said sanctuary cities are prohibited. You can't do that in Tennessee. One of the big things that was a key issue in the Patsy Hazelwood race was her vote on that. She wanted it there to be sanctuary cities. She voted that way. We brought it up. She said she didn't, but very clearly the bill language, this is why we're reporting on this story now. So this is a big issue. Like, we don't want sanctuary cities in our state. And so it was passed in 2019. And so later on in January, they passed another companion bill and an omnibus illegal immigration reform that places a Class E felony on local officials who adopt sanctuary city policies, including the removal of elected officials upon conviction. And so the ACLU, which is amazing to me, like, it's free speech always when it's on the left.
Yeah.
I cannot remember the last time the ACLU defended anyone conservative. They used to a long time ago. They were very much just like free speech absolutists, and now they're just free speech leftists. And honestly, they're just a legal arm, right? They use the First Amendment when it advantages the left, and they ignore it when it penalizes the right, which is almost all the time, probably 10-1. And so the Metro Nashville council members are suing, saying that it's a freedom of speech issue, right? They can't legislate in their local area, but the issue is, in my opinion, legally, and this is something I discovered during COVID when I was trying to, pull back all the ridiculous restrictions that put small businesses out of business, mass people lost their job. I tried to fight it at the county level, and I discovered that even though Jim Coppinger was one of the few Republican county mayors that was pushing that kind of stuff, that all the authority to fix it did not come from the county, did not come from the city, because all the authority for city and county government comes from the state. And so I think it's going to be interesting to take the freedom of speech angle, because it's not speech, right? It's like if something is in the Tennessee Code, and if your entity is created by Tennessee Code, you can't violate Tennessee Code. And so it will be, I don't really see the speech angle here, because really what it's about is harboring illegal aliens, and that's not necessarily through ordinances. And so that's not really speech. That's just kind of like, hey, this is prohibited in the state. If you vote for this, then you're breaking the law. And so I'm not really, and I'm not a legal, so I'm not really sure what exactly the maneuvering that they're going to try to do to bring this about. But it will be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm not a legal eagle either, as you said, but I think the speech aspect is the vote itself is considered speech. I'm kind of curious as well if they can really make a vote on something illegal. That seems to be the aspect they're going to.
Yeah, it would be like, if I guess you could make a law like it. I mean, anytime you have a law, I'm not saying it's as extreme. They could vote, say, hey, we're not going to regulate prostitution. This is a prostitution, but if it's banned by Tennessee law, a state can't say that you can do it, or a city and county can't say you can do it here. Now, there are allowances, right? Like, I mean, there's certain counties have different. There's some things that I guess they give counties leeway on, like alcohol sales and probably a number of other things. But this is, to my knowledge, just a blanket law in Tennessee. So I don't know how that's going to come down. But the thing that I do like, and I've said this often, I love about the Democrats, that I wish the Republicans would do is, buddy, they'll fight it. Okay, they'll just fight.
Yeah.
They'll fight it. They'll fight it even when it's hopeless. Our guys won't fight for the constituents even when they've got the authority and power to do it. And so kudos to the Democrats for at least fighting for the illegal immigrants that they represent, because we need our Republicans to vote just as hard and be just as ferocious for us.
Well, and I know you got another story on your site about a lawsuit dealing with illegal immigration. Lawsuit filed against new human smuggling law in Tennessee to address illegal immigration and human trafficking. What's this one about?
Well, this one's primarily about all these these religious nonprofits that have made a mint destroying our country with illegal aliens. And they're almost always left-leaning churches that have abandoned scriptures. Almost always. They're the same ones that, there's more than two sexes, even though the scriptures don't say that. Men can marry men, even though the scriptures don't say that. They very much abandoned the text that they purport and the God that they purport to worship. And so, it's Evangelical Lutheran Church of America has filed suit along with two people in Tennessee. One of them is a landlord who probably has financial interests. He's probably exclusively, leasing to illegal aliens, and he's probably like, oh gosh, I'm going to lose all my renters. And then a son-in-law, a resident who has a son-in-law that may be in the country illegally. And so this is all about the money, right? If you have built this huge organization off federal grants to move illegal aliens around and give them housing and everything else at taxpayer expense, and now you've hired a ton of staff, and that money flows through your organization, and people get rich off of it. And if they don't get rich, at least they make a good living, which is just as important, to a lot of folks. And so this is all about the money, and I'm sure they're watching these things disappear. And so I'm hopeful. We don't need organizations in our state that are working against us in this way. And so I'm glad they passed the law. And of course, anytime, one argument, as you've often heard, that rhinos will use about passing anything that's conservative is, well, there'll be a lawsuit. Well, yeah, there's a lawsuit every time a law is passed, almost exclusively. So, I mean, it's like that's par for the course. And so we can't let that be the excuse for why we don't legislate conservatively.
Brandon Lewis is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Real quick, I know you guys got a great story here about how the Trump administration is aiming to stop waste, fraud, and abuse in the food stamp program. And you guys broke down how this could affect us here in Tennessee.
Oh, I can't wait for this. This is long overdue. And I'm glad that Tennessee is cooperating with Trump. Essentially, they're looking to find places where folks are abusing these benefits. I can remember I lived in Brainerd. I don't know what percentage of foodstuffs are purchased in Brainerd relative to SNAP. I'd say it's probably 30 or 40% of all revenue probably is generated through that program up and down that corridor, would be my guess, just having lived there for a long time. And I would see these huge, able-bodied, spry, 20-year-old boys in there using SNAP cards. And I'm thinking, I've been working since I'm 13. Always working. I've always worked. I've never tried to, take a handout. And it's aggravating to be in there, looking at the grocery prices and then see somebody beside you who is just completely idle. And further, that's the one side of the coin. And I think the other side of the coin, and that's just, people, it makes me mad because I don't like to see able-bodied people being leeches on society. Mm-hmm. But the flip side of it is, there are two ways to make a man a slave. You can give him everything he needs, or you can take away everything he earns. And so we've created this whole subculture, and we have ruined people through welfare dependence. And I've watched it. I just had a cousin that was found dead. Good friend of mine. There's only four of us growing up. Two of them are dead that were on welfare and just got idle. And his dad called me and said, we found him and he had a welfare check in his pocket. And in the other pocket, he had a bunch of pills.
Wow.
And so when you don't have something to do as a man, especially meaningful, that gives you purpose, if you don't have a family to provide for, and if you don't have make your way in the world, like there's a reason that old adage, idle hands at the devil's workshop, is stuck around so long, because it truly is. And so I'm glad to see this, not because I think we should take money away from destitute mothers. I don't think we should starve children or anything. But the pendulum has swung so far, Yaffee, that if you had to line up 100 people who are on SNAP benefits and say which ones probably actually should be on it and which ones should probably go find employment, it's probably like 60-40 now. It used to not be like that. I mean, it used to be people would almost starve rather than take handouts in America, and now people feel completely entitled. And so I would love to see that Protestant work ethic return, because I think it's part of what built our nation, and I'd like to see it get infused back into it.
I agree with that completely. Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Read all of this stuff, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week.
Take care, Yaffee.